Hey Trekkies, it's summer, and you know what that means. It's time for Creation Entertainment's Trek to Las Vegas 2025. This year, the convention has been expanded to a 5-day schedule, August 6th through the 10th at the Rio Las Vegas Hotel. Meet all your favorite Star Trek pros in one place, and hey, maybe you swing by Vic's Lounge and you see our panel. It's a great way to meet people in person and have some fun with your fellow Trekkies. If you can't make it to Star Trek Las Vegas, of course, there's also other events around the country this year. Trek to Orlando, August 23rd through 24th. There's the Trek to New Jersey, September 6th and 7th. And finally, the Trek to Chicago, November 22nd and 23rd. We're looking forward to meeting as many of you as we can this year. So make sure that you get ready to trek to Las Vegas.
Hey, this is Thom Tran, and you're listening to the Open Pike Night. These guys are like the diplomatic corps of the Trek podcasts.
Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your personal logs are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with some amazing guests on stage and in the studio to discuss Episode 8 of Strange New Worlds Season 2, Under the Cloak of War. Join us tonight as we discuss the beautiful gray areas of Star Trek, the Carbomite maneuver in a battlefield scenario, how hot exactly coffee has to be for a Klingon to flinch, and whether this season has more punches thrown so far than any other single season in Star Trek history. Joining me today are my co-hosts, the man who wants podcast peace so much that he's willing to take the blame for every atrocity by people who are, quote, really funny when we're drunk and hanging out. Host of Sudden But Inevitable, Jesse.
That's actually true. I woke up this morning in biobed too, so I can tell you it's not working 100% great, but man, dedication will get you a long way in this business.
And the man who wouldn't hesitate to erase your buffer pattern if it meant he could get to see a live show with Freddie Mercury and David Bowie, host of Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through TNG, Cameron.
And inversely, if it were Freddie Mercury or David Bowie in the pattern buffer, I mean, I'm sacrificing anything to save them and keep them in there.
And the man who has far more insight into this episode than the Open Pike Night hosts, comedian, veteran, host of the Scary Funny podcast, creator of the GIs of Comedy Tour, and musician with his Star Trek band, The Bridge Crew, Thom Tran is our guest tonight.
Hey guys, how are you?
Very good.
We're good. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
We're honored to have you, and man, we had a nice nice little chat just before we started recording. Thom is very cool, listeners. If you aren't familiar with him, get familiar with him because he is super fun. So, Thom, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Star Trek?
I was a TNG guy growing up. I was a big nerd in the 80s, Transformers, G.I. Joe, all that. And being the only Asian kid in a Polish neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, you know, you get beat up a lot until you get some muscles and play some hockey, and then people don't beat you up. But you still love nerd stuff like Star Trek. My dad actually, my dad was an Air Force pilot in Vietnam in the 60s. I'm Vietnamese American. I know you can't tell from my voice because it's radio or podcasting. But my dad was an Air Force pilot. He came to the States in 67 to train with the U.S. Air Force, and he learned English by watching Star Trek, the original series. So my entire life, my very Vietnamese father sounded like James T. Kirk. And then one day I was like, hey man, you know there's an Asian on the Enterprise, right? Why don't you sound like Mr. Sulu? As my dad went, oh my. I was like, don't do that. Don't ever do that again. Keep that to your stupid self.
Our parents can never truly give us what we need from them, right? They just have to fumble around in the dark.
Yeah. So yeah, I grew up, occasionally watching TOS stuff. I was more a Transformers G.I. Joe guy, but then, 87 happened. And I saw Marina Sirtis for the first time. And I went, Ooh. Okay. Well, Star Trek's back in my life, and I loved it. This is going to sound blasphemous, but I loved it up until they refused to promote Harry Kim, and then I was like, all right, as the Asian here, I gotta step back. I think about that time I joined the army, and then I was busy jumping out of planes and blowing things up. So, but I still loved it. Love it to this day. And after I got divorced, and I say I got divorced like I had anything to do with it. She left. But when she left, I realized, I don't have anybody telling me what to do with my money. So $3,000 and several series worth of Star Trek uniforms later, in my closet, my accountant called because I bought everything with the company credit card. And he said, we have to justify this. And I said, I'm going to start a band. And he said, what? I was like, don't worry. And then the Bridge Crew was born. Crew spelled C-R-U-E, like Motley Crue. By the way, I think Motley Crue has sent me a cease and desist about this. I'm surprised it hasn't been CBS yet. But yeah, so I started a band. We wear different series uniforms on stage in between sets, and then we change. We'll start with a TOS, and then we'll go into TNG. I recently just got all the Strange New Worlds uniforms.
Oh, sweet.
Except I lost my drummer and bassist to Black Flag, that band. So
wow,
they're on tour with Black Flag right now, and I'm back telling dick jokes at comedy clubs in Los Angeles. Man, so it's okay. It's fine. It's fine, everybody. It's fine.
What a couple of traitors.
Are they still wearing the uniforms with Black Flag?
I don't think so. I've seen photos of them like playing to 20,000 people in Europe, and I'm like, hey man, you don't have to wear that Delta I got you for your birthday. It's a lot of black.
That's fair. That's fair.
A lot
There
of
are a
black.
lot of Star Trek Black Flag fan overlap.
Yeah, my drummer and I are. He is. We have some pretty gnarly, in-depth conversations about like we should be talking about. Does the bridge go here, or are we going to do this solo for longer? And it's usually like, no, fuck you. Harry Kim should have been promoted. There's a lot of arguing about non-band stuff.
Sounds like a podcast.
I have to ask, how did you feel, towards the end of Voyager to find out Harry Kim did get promoted, but then Janeway goes back in time and erases that?
Infuriated. Yeah.
Man, talk about a misstep,
Brutal.
Star Trek.
Yeah. I joined the army to blow stuff up for a reason. I needed to get that out of my system.
Man, I got to assume that Garrett Wang would be very grateful to learn that he was your inspiration.
I'm trying to be friends with him, like on the sly. Like I work in the industry, so like we know sort of the same people. Actually, a couple of my really good friends were in Star Trek, or various episodes. So I'm like slyly trying to, like, hey, maybe give Garrett a call. Come over for a barbecue. I think he lives in the valley.
I love it.
Well, yeah.
Good luck with
best
that.
of luck. I hope he comes over soon.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll let you know where that happens.
Yeah.
If it happens.
I mean, now's the time. Like,
Yeah, he's not doing anything
there's
right
a strike
now.
on. Like, he's probably near home, not off in Toronto shooting something. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
all right. So, we don't do a lot of warnings on this show, but obviously we're going to be talking about some heavy topics tonight. We've got some callers with heavy topics. So, listeners, if you watch the episode, don't be surprised if we talk about war and violence and PTSD and things like that, because that's what the show was
This is
about.
not the lore.
Yeah, which is why you have a comedian on.
Yeah, exactly. So, first up, we are going to hear from Sin and Sarah.
Under the Cloak of War was a hard episode to watch. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because something becomes difficult to endure when it is well written. And this episode clearly was, because it brought me back to similar situations as what the episode is portraying. I never actually saw combat, but I did see plenty of the aftermath of combat. And I saw the aftermath of training accidents and the aftermath of friendly fire. And to have something portrayed on television that felt so familiar was truly a feat. The fact that they portrayed Spock as not having an understanding of what someone had gone through, and then reacting appropriately to someone who had gone through such a thing. I'm probably going to go over my 90 seconds, but I hope you guys will give me the time. Spock not knowing how to speak to Chapel, just knowing how to listen, and therefore by listening try to understand what she had been through, was what is it's really what we all who have been through something like this hope for. Yeah, I'm just going to end it with that. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak on such a thing. Live long and prosper.
All right. Thank you, Sincera, for your call. Yeah, Star Trek and war this isn't like the first time we've dealt with this. DS9 obviously goes very deep into war for a majority of its run. But I really appreciate his point of view on that, of the showing folks not understanding who haven't been a part of it, which, all three of the hosts of this show have not been a part of it. And so it is something we've only been exposed to on TV and in movies.
First of all, can I say, Jesus, that guy's voice was very, very Chef from South Park. Holy wow.
Yeah.
Like, I have a deep voice, and I was like, good Lord.
He's also, like 6'4" or something?
And he's one of our staunchest supporters, and we had the opportunity to do a little bit of karaoke with him. The man has serious control of the wind, and it's very impressive.
Yeah.
And
Groovy.
to your point, John, about, and to Sinacera's point about, having people not understanding but just want to help, what really struck me about the dichotomy between the two sets of characters in this, the veteran characters and the non-veteran characters, was that line that Mbenga gives the young soldier. He says, we have to fight so that the people we love can have a chance at peace. And I think I know that peace has benefited our show greatly. The privilege that we sit in and speak from is only possible because of the people that are out there on the front lines and willing to fight for our chance at peace. So I do want to say thank you to everyone in that entire group for that. And yeah, I think the thing that I like the most about Sincera's call is that you can tell that this isn't something that he went, okay, I'll write this down and then I'll call into open pike night. You can tell that it's actually a reaction to the episode itself. And he actually did text me the same thing right after he finished watching. He said this was hard to watch. So thank you for your call. And yeah, I really feel that Spock, in his like half human mode here, facially captured that helplessness, right? Like, I know that I can't give you what it is that you need. Can you please just tell me? And his line of, you need time away from me, while I didn't really like that for Christine, I totally get it, right? Like, Spock, despite his best efforts, is still a little bit selfish about this because he doesn't have that past. He doesn't have the experience that she has. And that's pretty human, I think.
Yeah, and I liked earlier on in that same little conversation between them when, that whole short scene between Spock and Chapel in the hallway where, she's like, it's not, I'm not in a great place. No, it has nothing to do with you. And no, there's not a whole lot you can do, is a very human like that. That is an issue in every relationship that ever exists, and especially a romantic ones. And so it was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I've rarely identified with Spock so much. It's taken me a long time to learn that you don't always have to be the helper, and sometimes you just need to be there and listen, and that's the best thing you can do. In fact, sometimes helping, like in the dinner scene, can make things worse. So yeah, I thought that was really good. I mean, both from a veteran, non-veteran standpoint, but also just like, yes, in relationships, sometimes the other person's going through something and there's nothing you can do, but don't take it personally. And yeah, that's been like a 35-year journey for me to learn that. Also, in the difference between the veterans and the non on the ship, I do think they play it really well with Pike. It could have been easy for Pike to come off as kind of clueless in this, but the way they play it is it's not so much an indictment on Pike that he doesn't really understand what some of his crew and in fact friends are going through, but just the depth of the wounds of war that not even someone like Pike can pick up on them. Would you say that's a fair assessment, Thom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the number of relationships, both romantic and friendly, that have been ruined by 20 years of me not processing combat trauma. I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about my military career, but I deployed to Iraq in 2003, and I got shot in the back of my head the 4th day in combat. I crossed the border on a Sunday, and I got shot on Thursday in the back of the head, and I stayed. And then 2 weeks before I came back to the United States, my roommate was killed by an improvised explosive device. So my war started like shit, and it ended like shit, and I came home at 25, and I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I came home at 25 years old, as a still young paratrooper. I was a mid-grade NCO, non-commissioned officer, but I came home full of piss and hoo, as we say, and I was fine. I was fine, guys. I'm fine. I went into the VA. I went to the doctor. I'm fine. It's, I got all my hands and feet and all my fingers. Yeah, I have some nightmares and I have trouble seeing and I get headaches from the gunshot and all that shit, but I'm fine. I'm fine. And 20 years later, I'm just realizing, I wasn't fine. And I'm still not fine. And I'm at times getting worse. And a lot of us come home and we do that. I'm fine. Just thank God I stopped drinking years ago, and I found comedy, which is my therapy. Comedy literally is the thing that saved my life after Iraq. Unfortunately, not dealing with all that is one of the reasons my marriage ended. It was one of the reasons a woman who loved me very much couldn't stay in the marriage because I refused to process the trauma. I hid behind alcohol and comedy and music and all the other things that I did to not deal with it. And a lot of us do that. And so part of not being able to tell the people that we love or that love us what they need to do is that we don't know what they need to do because we're just like, I'm fine. Because you got to remember, a lot of these men and women who are still fighting, they don't get the time to process that. They come home, they're back for 6 months, 12 months, a year, depending on, the op tempo of their organization. And then they're back. I know kids, Jesus, they're in their 30s now, but I know people who've done multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. So you have no time to process that. I mean, back in World War II, when you were literally sending troops and equipment by ship, back and forth to a war, you were sitting on a boat for 3 months. So you had the time to drink and fight and talk and cry and grieve. At least you had that. When I came home from Iraq, I came home on a Thursday. No, I came home on a Monday. I out-processed out of Fort Bragg on Fort Liberty, it is now called. I'll process on Thursday, and on Monday I started my senior semester in college.
Wow.
that was,
Jeez.
and then I did 21 credit hours so that I could try to graduate, which is double your normal college course load. So I went literally from a literal war zone where I had been shot, my roommate had been killed, to double the course load of most mortal people to try to just get through that. And that's been my life for the last 20 years. I spent the first 3 or 4 years drinking. I talk about it now. I fell into a bottle like a lot of people did, but I didn't talk to my family, to my loved ones. And then, I found comedy, and that's the thing that took the place of the alcohol and the drugs and whatever. But it's still a mask, because it's, I get on stage and tell dick jokes for 10 to 90 minutes a night, and it's fine then, but there's a lot of others trauma that goes unprocessed. So yeah, I that one of the whole episode hit me. But yeah, that scene was me and my ex-wife, except, Spock was my ex. Spock played the part of my ex-wife, and I was the very hot Nurse Chapel, which, God, that's a weird thing to say out loud, but yeah, I've been in that position, and I've seen other people who like Ortegas. I know people who feel that way. I don't personally. I had a different view of the war, being literally on the tip of the spear. They crossed the border days after the war started. But I know people like Ortegas who feel that way. I felt a little Mbenga in me. That's also a weird phrasing. God damn it, phrasing.
I mean, that's one thing I appreciate about the episode is how we did get these 3 different veterans, and they're very, maybe not. I mean, Chapel and Mbenga definitely seem to have similar attitudes, but different. And then Ortegas had a very different kind of reaction to it. It was nice how it kind of showed that breadth of effect.
I've seen some people talk about, why didn't Pike read the room better? Why didn't he, know that asking these people to come to this dinner was this huge ask? But I'm going to disagree with that sentiment, because I feel like the first thing he said after he said, I want you to come to this dinner, was, if you don't want to, that's fine. Like, the higher ups would really like it, but I will stand between you if I need to. And giving Mbenga that line of, I don't want to give him the satisfaction of chasing me away from this dinner. I think that is the essence of that moment, right? It's not up to Chris. It's only up to Mbenga and Erica and Chapel.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. Like, deep down, I'm like, no, Pike should never have even mentioned that to Mbenga. He should have told the admirals to go pound sand. It's like, you just flew across the entire quadrant to help your first officer, and now you're ordering all of your veterans to come be re-traumatized at a dinner. Like, I get it. We wouldn't have an episode to talk about if they had done that, but it did feel a little it's like this is out of character for Pike for the sake of the plot of this episode. And
listen, as somebody who has directly disobeyed orders from commanding officers, you want to keep that shit to a minimum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we see him do in the whole series is disobey a direct order.
And I loved him for it. Yeah. But again, you got to keep that shit to a minimum. Like, Robert April's his buddy, so
Yeah.
Say no to him, fine, when you got your beard and you're on your horse. But when you're in the captain's chair, yeah. I mean, it was, yeah. But I get it. Yeah, I totally understood. Like, and he said it. He gave him the out. He's like, look, the higher ups want this, but I'll say no. But I'm giving you the option to, do it or not.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it seemed weird that the admirals were like, "Oh, you know what will solve this problem is more interaction with the veterans and this guy." Like, okay, if you think so.
Yeah.
But again, I think the writing, like Chapel saying that they don't understand, and then Anson Mount's performance, I feel like again, it's maybe that he just has so much faith in Starfleet that he's like, "Oh, if you put on the badge, like all your trauma disappear, like, or at least you have the willpower and the control to exemplify Starfleet as opposed to anything else." And I'd buy that about Pike, that he kind of just puts that delta up on an altar.
Well, yeah, and beyond that, I mean, where Pike is in his own journey, right, is having to deal with trauma that he knows is coming to him and that he has seen some of the results of, and that's something that he spent a lot of season 1 processing. So he's not a war veteran, but he is somebody who is part of a at least paramilitary organization. And we know he has feelings on this war because we know from Discovery that sitting out that war really, really affected him. So I agree with you, Cameron. I think the writing and the characterization did its job in that moment.
But it's a knife's edge.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the other viewpoint too, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's one other part to that scene with Pike and Mbenga, but a caller does bring it up, so we'll save that part for later.
I do just want to say real quick that, like, tonal wise, very smart to stick this trauma sandwich in the middle of 2 slices of hijinks. Like,
Seriously.
perfectly
Yeah.
placed episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they couldn't have put it anywhere else. I mean, plus it matches up with the Mbenga episode from last season.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been wondering why we hadn't heard any, Mbenga mention his daughter at all this season, and it's like, oh, he's lost the thing he was distracting himself with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I think that's what they've been this is what they were building up to, with like, yeah, he's not in a good place, and he lost the thing that he was pouring all of his energy into.
Anchor, yeah.
And also lost his child. So it kind of makes sense that this is as far as it built up to, is him taking a life by the end of this episode.
But did he?
We'll get to that.
Oh, don't worry. We have plenty of calls to talk about that. All right. Next up, we have Kelly returning to the Open Pike Night stage.
Good morning, Open Pike. This is Kelly Zent-Georgi, or Antipodal on Twitter. Compared to last week's episode, These Old Scientists, dare I say that it is antipodal to the theme in Under the Cloak of War. I dare. This week's episode was an homage to MASH, both the movie and the TV series, but without the comedy, just the stark terror and horrors of war. Much praise to Babs Olasimokam for his focused, primal performance tinged with post-traumatic stress disorder. A hoot to see Baylock, rather Clint Howard, guest starring as Buck Martinez. And poor Spock, on a break with T'Pring, and now Chapel wants some personal time alone. Also, nice callback to Star Trek The Next Generation's episode Relics, with patient Alvarado being suspended in the transporter buffer. Unfortunately, his pattern was deleted to save incoming new patients. Thank you, Open Pike. Best wishes for Season 2 podcasts, and hailing frequencies are closed.
All right. Good to hear from Kelly again. We're glad you're feeling better. Hey, we got to see Clint Howard back. And,
I giggled.
Wasn't that
Goodness.
great?
When I saw him, I giggled like a schoolgirl.
I immediately recognized him, but I couldn't place it. I was like,
Oh, no.
why do I know this face? And I had just watched his TOS episode like last week. So I was like, there is something about this and I can't place it. It's driving.
He's like on 4 different series. He's like showing up
for sure. But like, I had never seen TOS until, or most of TOS until within the last year. I'm still making my way through it. But like, his face has stayed the same
Pretty
for
much.
60 years. Like and that's not a shot or anything. Like the guy is very recognizable. I paused it and immediately went to look up who it was. And I mean, yeah, like even just as a Star Trek fan, like what a great moment, and to have him be like, the energy that he has is like beaten down, a little bit kooky, but very focused, right?
But I felt like they were setting him up as like, this is a good commander.
Yeah.
He knows what he needs, and he got the people he needed, and he trusts the people. Like, I felt like they were trying to portray him as like, no, this guy is the right person for the job he's in this situation.
I like when he's like,
100%.
I'm in charge, but you probably want to talk to Joseph about this. He actually knows more.
Yeah.
Clint Howard and Patrick Stewart are two people who were like, Jesus, Patrick Stewart was old in the 60s. Like, when he was on Dune, he looked
Yep.
like, and I love Patrick Stewart. I love me some Patrick Stewart, but I watched Dune, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the way he did in Picard.
Yep.
Yeah.
But him and Clint Howard, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I giggled.
Clint
when I
Howard
saw
is
it.
good in anything, and then to bring him back into Star Trek was great. I love him. There's a B horror movie called Ticks, which I enjoy, and he has a very fun, memorable scene in that.
I've actually seen that one,
No,
Cameron.
hey.
Does that surprise you?
It does. It's directed by my old cinematography teacher, Richard
Ooh.
Claybaugh.
Yeah. I will I'll continue the praise. I don't know if you guys know the story of the MTV Movie Awards and Clint Howard. The Film Awards, like, they had, I think, only one or two times they gave out Lifetime Achievement Awards, and it was kind of a joke award. Like, it was sort of mocking the people. And then they did it for Clint Howard, and I was watching this one, and they got like big name celebrities on. They made you think they were talking about Clint Eastwood, and then it was for Clint Howard. But that man came on and was so genuinely thrilled and like so happy for the recognition. And then MTV was like, that was real. We're never doing this again. Like we like
Wow.
he was so just pleased and happy, and like just watching it as a kid, I'm like, man, he is like, I didn't know it was supposed to be a joke until years later, but like, yeah, like this man is just good.
That's why I hate the Razzies, honestly.
Yeah.
There's definitely it's MASH vibes and that it's a MASH unit, but I was getting serious like James Cameron circa 1980s, 1990s vibes from this. It felt like the sci-fi war scenes felt very like that, like just good world building. I mean, we'll talk about the world building here, and I think why that makes the episode so successful for me. But it was good stuff. That
I do like that Kelly brings up MASH, because I used to watch it a lot as a kid with my grandma, and like, yeah, everybody's like, oh, MASH, it was a comedy show.
No.
Not really.
Have you ever listened to the lyrics?
You ever heard
There's
this
a reason
like,
they took the lyrics out of the theme song for the
yeah,
show.
like there's some episodes near the end where some bad stuff happens in that kind of sitcom. So yeah, it was definitely very MASH vibes, but I really, like Cam said, the world building, I really appreciated how much they did with not going overboard on like, oh, this is war, but we're this camp, and it's not necessarily going to be frontline battles.
And I really appreciate Kelly's comment about the shifting tones episode to episode, because I mean, I know that we have talked about that, how this show is capable of so many genres and tones and setups. And like, I actually started to think after this episode, I don't know that there's another show that I can think of off the top of my head that would be this successful in every genre that they try. Like, it's a testament to the cast, right? And that's me being a broken record, but wow, the cast, and wow, Babs, Alus, and Mokun, seriously.
Holy crap. Yeah.
Also, when he got out of that tub thing, I was like, he is jacked.
He's super jacked.
He is jacked.
Was he in a tub? Is that what it was?
I thought that was a tub.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he sleeping
Yeah,
naked?
then
Is that, or were you?
And wet.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not clear. It was my second time. Like, okay, he's taking a bath. That's what I was
But it's
missing from that scene.
Even that is, you get a beautiful contrasting shot of him in the sonic shower, where it's like, now he's living a life that is comparatively luxurious, right? But that doesn't make the wounds go away.
Good point.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Still super jacked though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the pattern buffer use, like, kind of introducing that's where he learned how to hold someone in the pattern buffer, I thought was really well done. They could have made that feel like One Trick Pony or Small Universe, but it felt organic.
I've brought this up before. I'm glad you said that, Cam. I brought this up before that I'm like, hey, why hasn't Pike asked about his daughter? And then I was watching this like, what if Rukia is already in the pattern buffer? Like, what if she should be like 20 years old by the time we met her in season 1? And maybe Pike just straight up doesn't know. And
because we specifically find there are things about Mbenga that Pike doesn't know. And when Mbenga tells that soldier why he joined Starfleet, he says, I did this to find new ways to heal people. So to me, that in combination with him already knowing the buffer trick is like, that's almost explicitly saying, yes, Rukia is already in the buffer. This is, that's an even older wound for him than this war is.
Yeah. So I will stop harping on that subject because yes, now I, like our last guest, Ryan North said, I know more about Star Trek now, so I can explain Star Trek. Okay, so these next two calls, I'm not going to play them directly back to back, but they have very differing points of view, which I like because I think that is the strength of this episode. So first up, we'll hear from Platty.
Hello, Open Pike Night. This is Platty M3 with my hits, shits, and misses. You know, in a series of big swings, not every episode's going to be a hit for every viewer. And top level, this was one that I finally bumped a little on. Decent episode, but not something I'm ever eager to go back to. All right, hits. The acting in this episode's amazingly top-notch. Everybody, just amazing job. Shits, I'm just going to say it, Mbenga. That's second-degree murder of someone that we have zero reason to believe is doing anything but good in the galaxy at this point in his life. Heck, Doc kept that weapon, and now he's involved others in a conspiracy. One could easily make a case for first-degree murder, especially if our shitty little Vulcan prosecutor comes back next season. This is not exactly what I want to see a Star Trek doctor who's supposed to do no harm do. He harmed, and he's likely to set many other children, innocents, and colonies up for further harm by taking out an ambassador for peace. Misses? Wow, Spock, what a freaking miss on the temperature of that Ractogino. You just burned your human hands to make tea a few weeks ago, and that memory in no way led you to check the food dispenser, making liquid in a cup tolerable that could be touched. Would have been more believable that he programmed it wrong, bad taste, or just gave the Klingon a bellyache. This mistake was a bit too contrived to make the plot move along the sickbay for me. Strange New World, yep, we had one, so that's 6 out of 8. We're trending higher than last year, and personally, this is the widest spread between episodes of Season 1 and Season 2 for me. Definitely prefer the Elysian Kingdom.
All right, Platty. So, that is one specific take on this episode of the central plot of Doc Ra. Like, this episode so well leaves him a mystery. And I do think that is what, over time, will make people come back to it again and again, is like, is he a good guy or is he not a good guy? Is he genuinely working for peace or not? And I love that they never answered it, that they leave it up to the viewer because, like I said, our next caller has a completely different point of view.
Well, and the one thing that I will say directly to Platty is I was with you in the reading of the scene until Mbenga says, like, you're using what I did to make yourself a saint. And Ra right there should have said, no, I'm not a saint. I'm just a person trying to atone, right? But he went with, people need saints, man. Like, saints give people hope and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, oh, take this guy out.
Oh,
like,
you're a charlatan. Oh, okay, like, I get it.
Get him, Joe.
Here is Sayadina returning to the Open Pike Night stage.
Oh, hey.
A big and happy hello to all you guys at Open Pike Night and everyone in the Trek community. Sayadina here. I mean, wow, just wow. I'm not that easy to impress these days, but that was a great episode of Star Trek. There's a lot I could talk about, but what was most exciting for me was the moral theme and dilemma it brought to the table regarding justice versus mercy and retribution versus forgiveness. We can debate about Mbenga's action, but I think the more critical discussion would be regarding the problem Mbenga faced in the first place. Here is a man, a Klingon, who had committed terrible atrocities, and not only that, was lying and utilizing Mbenga's own dark secret for his own gain, and yet was claiming to be reformed and furthering the cause of peace. How can justice be satisfied here? Is there room for forgiveness for even one such as he? We can just as easily insert someone like Hitler into that role. What if Hitler reformed after the atrocities of the Holocaust and the war? So my main question, and this is for discussion and not to find an easy answer, is there any code, law, action, any kind of human endeavor or methodology at all that could satisfy and allow for both justice and mercy to be lived out to their fullest extent, to coexist? The assumption, of course, being that these two things must coexist. We can just as easily ask, can they or should they? The Federation chose mercy for Ambassador Doc Ra, but M'Benga chose justice, at least his own version of justice. Did either path wash away and redeem the wrongs and suffering that had been committed? Thank you as always for including my voice. Love talking and hearing from you all. Bye.
All right. Sayadina with a very different take there. And yeah, so what, because there are like 3 or 4 of these questions I feel like in this episode of what did I actually just watch? What did I actually just see happen? And there, none of them are specifically answered. So yeah, as far as Doc Ra, like, do you guys think he actually was reformed and actually was who he was trying to be?
Can I
go for it?
give my thoughts on this?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to compare Doc Ra to some of the people I'm thinking of, but as a combat vet, as an actual combat vet, because we have veterans over the course of the last 20 years who have deployed, and many who have not. And I know for a fact that there are many who didn't deploy, and they feel like they need to make up for the fact that they weren't downrange with the rest of us. And then there are people, and I hear this a lot, who didn't serve at all. And then they feel like it is their obligation to speak up loudly in defense of those of us who did, to make up for the fact that they didn't enlist. And I feel like Ra very much did the thing where you guys have heard of stolen valor. You know what stolen valor is?
Yeah, we do it all the time.
I mean, you're wearing a Delta right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But in this case, it isn't so much stolen valor as it is stolen experience. Because at the end of the episode, I mean, I'm not spoiling anything, it turns out M'Benga was the butcher of Jagal. And Ra, it turns out he was ashamed of his, of what he did. Not the killing. It was I took off because my men were killed by one assassin. And that shame is the shame that I see from a lot of people who didn't serve, who screamed loudly about patriotism and what being a patriot means. When the reality was, when they should have raised their hand and enlisted to be a patriot, to fight, to protect, they didn't. So now they need to be loud about it. And I think that Ra did the same thing, where he was ashamed of not being a Klingon because he ran like a little bitch. He wasn't a Klingon in that moment. And then he took M'Benga's actions. He took that, and I guess stolen vows are a really bad way to put it, but he took what happened to bring himself the honor of, I've reformed. I did this thing. I killed my own men, but I'm reformed. He didn't reform. He was a bitch. He bitched out and he took off because M'Benga slaughtered his men. And it's that shame that maybe after however many years it's been since the war, he's trying to reform, but I know those people. I see them all the time. They shout very loudly about what they would have done. They're very loud about how patriotic they are, except when it came time to shit or get off the pot. You know, I know those people.
Yeah,
I constantly hear from them. I would have enlisted, but in this case, for Ra, it was I should have died like a Klingon, but so now I'm going to take this opportunity to quote unquote make up for that sins. What did he make up for? He's not making up for the things that he's being accused of. He's making up for being a bitch. And listen, I love me some Robert Wisdom. When I saw him in this episode, I was like, it's Uriel from Supernatural. Like, I was so happy. But that's what I saw in that character.
Yeah.
Can someone make up for their sins? Jesus Christ, guys, I've been trying to make up for every trigger I pulled for the last 20 years. Me telling jokes to vets, going to Iraq to do comedy, is me trying to make up for the sins of my youth. But I did the things. And I very much felt in Ra what I see from people who are constantly screaming into the ether of the internet about how patriotic they are or whatever bullshit they're screaming about. In this case, it was him trying to make up for, shit that he didn't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I got out of his character. Again, Robert Wisdom, I love you. I loved you in Supernatural. I thought you were fucking fantastic.
In the Wire, yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. But
I thought he did a great job here, too. I really liked the Doc Ra character. I mean, I didn't look up to him, but I thought he was a great character for this episode, right? He poses the question, because you hear all the time, like, can people change? But this is kind of a question like, sometimes have you done something that it doesn't matter if you changed? Like, maybe he did. And I think that's the question Mbenga's talking about at the end, is like, maybe he did, but that's irrelevant at this point. They give you so many like hints of like whether he's actually reformed or not throughout. I feel like Mbenga's line of sometimes you pretend so much, which echoes, Pelia's line from last episode.
Right? I was like, how are we having the
in
same
two
conversation?
very different contexts.
Pelia and Boiler
Yeah.
just
I think that means like, I think what I got from him is that he's very much an opportunist. He saw that the war was going good for him for a while, and then he saw that it was turning, and so he jetted out. He ran into some Starfleet and said, oh, if I say this, I can get in their good graces. Oh, I can become an ambassador. Well, this life's not so bad. In fact, I will shed all of my Klingon culture and heritage. Like, he comes on, he's like, forget that formality. I'm the most human Klingon you'll ever, like, to the point where you're like, that's when I was questioning him. I'm like, you're kind of protesting too much.
Self-hating
Yeah.
Klingon. Like,
And so
yeah.
I think he does. I think he's committed to bringing peace through his job as an ambassador. And I think if he got a better opportunity, he would switch at a moment's notice again.
And that's, I think, the key for me, because I fully agree with the opportunist label here, because you brought up a great point. Like, he's very eloquent, right? He knows the correct things to say. Like, oh, healing is a journey. It's not a destination. It's like, so subtextually, you can't hold my past against me because I'm on a journey of healing, right? He comes across as almost like a lawyer in some ways. Like, he's challenging you with these arguments that are like, they're directly dependent on the human capacity for forgiveness and to live with two truths, or sometimes the inability to live with two truths, right? Because as a Klingon, you don't need two truths. Like, you just need the one truth of being Klingon.
You need two dicks.
And right, but
Yeah.
that's
They have a backup truth, Jesse, just like everything else.
a redundant truth, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the scene with Ortegas really gives voice to that feeling. She's saying, you could have been saying remain Klingon, and that would have been scary to us, and we would have known what you meant. But you didn't choose to do that. You chose to say that in Klingon, and you operate on that. So, like, I really feel that you have remained Klingon, and that, you know, bloodshed and violence are still the things that make you tick, even if you are trying to alter our lens of those things. So, to answer, or to attempt to answer Sayadina's question, I think she is right to identify that this episode isn't presenting M'Benga's actions as right or wrong. They're presenting them as a version of justice. And that is almost exactly what he tells Pike at the end, right? Like, yeah, like, let me just ask you this. Had I started the fight and killed him anyway, is that a problem? Like, because this is his hypothetical, right? Like, sure, there'll be an inquiry and everything, but think about this very good longtime friend of mine. So I still land on the side of M'Benga, and I think a big part of that is just because I feel that Babs Alusin-Mokun's performance gave me all the subtleties that I needed to at least understand him, even if I don't, if I wouldn't have taken the exact same course of action. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I think that the actor did such a good job that I still went with him on his journey and never quite trusted Ra personally.
Yeah. And I mean, his whole storyline, that this episode is called Under the Cloak of War, which is definitely, the cloak of war, the fog of war, the confusion that is attributed to those things. This episode is that confusion, which is why I think it's so good, because Platy's right and Sayadina's right, because we don't know for sure, and that's a beautiful thing. I love that they started setting up the whole suspicion, the little notes of it from the bosun's whistle conversation, and saying, "Oh, I know I could go to my quarters, but could I take a tour of the flagship of the Federation instead?" It's like, and number one, like, why do you want that? So I do appreciate that it's like, we don't know. I definitely think he was an opportunist. I do think that they took a shot of the diplomatic corps pretty hard and just like flat out.
The shade that got thrown at the diplomatic corps. Holy shit.
I know one group of people who do not like this episode, and it's anybody in that runs in that circle, because, like, man, they just really didn't do them any favors.
I was like, damn, here's some burn treatment.
Yeah. You know who else didn't do any favors was Uhura when Ortegas was going off on the bridge. Now I get it. Ortegas don't talk shit when there's somebody on the ship, but Uhura,
kick her.
You
do
speak
something.
57 languages of her.
face.
You are an expert in communication. You can't just give her some shut up eyes.
Listen, as a communications guy, former Army commo guy, sometimes you just want somebody to just keep fucking
Sometimes
talking.
you want to see the train wreck.
See what happens. Go ahead, specialist. You keep fucking talking. No, Colonel's not behind you. Go ahead.
It does also raise a slight question as to why Uhura needed a book to translate Klingon later in Star Trek, whereas in this episode she can just hear it and go, remain Klingon. That's what you said, right? Like, and she did get it a little bit off, right?
Right.
But she had the gist of the quote.
Different dialects.
Yeah, it's one of those things that as a Star Trek fan, you go, well, that doesn't make sense. And then, as a human, you can either choose or choose not to go, but I'm fine with that because this is a great episode.
Also hard to crap on one of the funniest Uhura scenes in the history of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like Mandarin versus, as an Asian, I should know what the other one
Cantonese.
is, but I don't. That's it. Oh. Man, God, I'm terrible at being Asian. Yeah. I guess it's kind of the same. So, sure.
You heard it here first.
The entire planet of Klingons speak the same language. Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I had to watch Duck Dynasty with fucking captions on because I didn't know what those rednecks were saying. I was stationed in the South. In the South, my entire career. I was like, what is he saying?
And you can't see any of their mouths, so it's like, what? I can't even guess.
Yeah.
Well, before we leave Raw, I do want to talk about like one of my favorite moments of his, which is at the end when Mbenga's confronting him and he learns that he is the Butcher of Jagal. There is that moment where I don't know, you almost kind of, I feel like he was relieved. He was relieved that someone he didn't have to like hide the secret from anymore. Like he could communicate with this guy on a level that he can't with anyone else. And I don't know, I thought that was an interesting moment for the character.
You saw it on his face a little bit.
Yeah. He bends over and sort of like, okay. Thank God somebody knows. Yeah.
But then it kind of felt like the gears were turning. Like, how can I use this? How are we going to use this to?
And there was
further myself.
Little tinge
politician
of oh shit, I may never leave this room. And that was only facial, right? Like in that 4 seconds after Mbenga reveals that, there's a lot happening on Ra's face. Just again, credit to the cast. Like, wow.
Yeah. All right, let's hear from our next caller. Here is Trev returning to the Open Bike Night stage.
Hey guys, it's Trev beaming in from Failure to Franchise, the podcast about failed movie franchise starters. I'm honestly of two minds about this episode. On one hand, I did love just the overall thematic storyline of it. I thought Babs was fantastic in this episode, and I really did like the focus on PTSD and the after effects of war. It felt like Strange New Worlds does Deep Space Nine, which of course I mean in the best way possible. But I did think that the flashback structure made it seem like everything happened over just a span of a couple days. I wish they had taken more of a Year of Hell type approach, and we felt a real passage of time in those parts of the episode. It seemed almost too convenient to me that this crucial event that we've heard about, or that's been hinted at, happened so soon after Chapel met Mbenga. So I wish that had been played out a little bit more. And also, honestly, the fact that the main storyline was entirely on the Enterprise, this season, for a show called Strange New Worlds, has felt really ship-bound, and it's kind of too bad. It feels like a budgetary decision, maybe saving up for a huge finale, because I know next week the musical also looks to be set primarily on the Enterprise. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that this season has felt so locked into the Enterprise, or in just kind of single locations like a courtroom, or even something as simplistic as modern-day Toronto. But still, these are slight complaints, and overall, the amazing tonal balancing act of going from an episode like Those Old Scientists to this is exactly what makes this show so special and so fun to watch. So those are minor complaints. Don't get me wrong. I did love this episode. And as I said, I really hope that most of your episode this week is talking about how awesome Babs was. Thanks.
Well, let's talk about how awesome Babs was, because holy crap.
And let me say
again, ripped. That man is ripped. And I say that as a straight man who loves women and boobs. That man is jacked.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I got to go to the gym more. Jesus.
I actually, so two things here. I want to say first to Trev, I think you totally nailed this. I think you're supposed to come away from this episode being of two minds. That's like the point of what they did. So way to go there. And I will also call back to Sinacera. I believe I texted him something along the lines of, and how solid was Babs? And he said, as solid as he is cut. So yes, that is a thing that has been noticed by all of the cishet white guys and our friend Thom. Like, everybody watching this is just overwhelmed by this performance and by the physical presence of Babs. I mean, when he's on the screen, you do not look away from the screen. I had trouble taking notes for this episode. I had to watch it 3 times to get my notes in, because he's too compelling to watch. Like, I could watch an entire series of him in Starfleet and they could do whatever they want with it. I would be there for that. I would, carry the flag for it.
Starfleet medical, anybody?
Seriously, get him on a ship with Crusher and do some weird time stuff. Let me see how all these
like
doctors...
that one nacelle ship at the beginning of the episode.
I knew you were going to bring up the one nacelle ship.
No, I was going to say that must have been Jesse's PTSD from this episode. His trauma was seeing a ship that was entirely one nacelle.
And the nacelle, they didn't even leave enough room for the saucer section. The nacelle is like plowing into the bow of the ship, and I did like the underslung deflector dish, but I mean, come on. Like, one nacelle, what are you doing? You guys, come on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, but the whole point is, like, I love that Star Trek gives us complex doctors, right? I mean, and it goes all the way back to Bones. There is never... I don't know that there's a doctor that I've seen in Star Trek who only helps people, right? Who only does no harm. Because even Bev is a crack shot, and we have seen that more than once, right? So, like, I mean, Babs is living up to a rich, very complex tradition here. And I gotta say, I think he may have set the new bar for me for Star Trek Doctors.
Can I tell you that one of the best Special Forces snipers I ever knew was also the medic of the team?
Believe it.
So, your job, it involves saving lives, but this is a military, quasi-military organization, but not an Army Special Forces. It is very much a military operation. Like, you have to have the skills for whatever the situation calls for. So, it's not an uncalled for, it's not an unheard of situation where your medic is also, unfortunately, having to take lives. Like, real life, I know one of the best snipers I knew was also an 18 Delta, which is a Special Forces medic. So, but from the production standpoint, as our caller just mentioned, as a television producer, I can tell you budgetary restraints are some real shit. Like, it is, and this is what we should be happy with. There is another show that shall remain nameless that is not on the air anymore, but we should be happy that despite there haven't been a lot of actual Strange New Worlds, every episode has been amazing. When there was another show that I have to watch how I speak because I know people on the show, because of budgetary reasons, the main character wasn't there for most of the episodes because of how big the finale was going to be. The other, I don't want to say how many episodes because it'll give away the show, but most of the season, of the final season, the main character wasn't there. And a lot of the very expensive special effects that go with that main character weren't there because the last episode was so big. So I feel like we should be really happy. Oh, and by the way, that whole season sucked. I've told my friend this. I don't care.
We're talking
but
about,
we should be really happy. Huh?
We're talking about NBC's 1990 sitcom Wings, right? Is that what we're...
yeah.
Okay.
Wings. Yes, absolutely. No, we should be really happy that despite not really bottle episodes, or thank God not,
Clip shows.
Clip shows.
Oh, yeah.
Every episode has been story-wise, character-wise, amazing. Like, amazing. Yes, it is Strange New Worlds, and they haven't been to a lot of them. But hey, man, when the guy that runs fast isn't running fast, shit.
You did it. You gave it away.
The show's over.
The planet we go to is so. I mean, just to go back to the world building, like I having only seen the first 6 episodes of DS9, have not seen a lot of war in Star Trek, and to like be fully thrown into it and like believing in this world and understanding and like incoming transport, like within 2 lines, like that became such a signifier of the chaos in this place. It's so good. That and Dorian, I loved him. I think he should have been played by Michael Biehn or Gary Busey circa 1992. But the guy who did play him was great. He was great. I loved everything on that planet. It was so good. I loved the intercutting with the flashbacks. It's really hard to pull that off, right? Where you don't care about one story a little more than the other. And you're always like, can we get back to that? Lost is built around that. I love the shit out of Lost. I'd say probably 60% of the episodes, I was like, all right, but let's get back to the island. And, by the end of the episode, I'd be like, okay, I get why we did it. But that was not the case here. I was fully invested every time we cut back and forth. It was so good.
That is a really good point. And I will push back on Trev just a little bit and say, did you not hear Platty's call? We're up to like 6 or 7 Strange New Worlds this year in 8 episodes, man. Like, cut us some slack, right? But the other thing that I'll tack on to your point there, Cameron, with the world building, I really, really love that I didn't hate this previously on. Usually the recap drives me crazy because I'm like, yes, that was 2 weeks ago. Like, I remember that. I don't need it. Now, I understand that it's because it's an episodic show and they want people to be able to pick it up wherever, right? Which I might start arguing against at some point, like with some of the character arcs. But having them reference Discovery again directly, I love that. I love showing us Klingons in armor, Klingons getting ready for war, showing us that this is the culture that we're dealing with, right? And it really does go back to what Michael said, which is I think it would be unwise to confuse race with culture. And there's so much surrounding that at the table, right? With Ortegas being like, no, you guys said remain Klingons. And with Ra seemingly disowning his own heritage in some ways. So I, as a Star Trek fan, deeply, deeply grateful that they're willing to reach back to the actual origin of Strange New Worlds, which is Star Trek Discovery. Get over it, haters.
I just worked with Sonequa Martin Green on a movie.
Oh.
And she is the loveliest person. I'm pretty sure I can say that. Yeah, fuck it, whatever. I just can't post the photo because of the strike. But, lovely. Oh, my God. Every time I got around her, the director was like, hey, don't fucking be weird. I was like, because the director's a friend of mine. He was an 82nd Airborne guy.
So he knows how you get weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had the bridge crew play at the premiere of his short film.
That's cool.
So when he cast Sonequa and he asked me to come back to do the movie, anytime I got around her, he literally just went, hey, don't fucking be weird. And immediately I was like, you have to see my Star Trek socks that I'm wearing right now. Wardrobe didn't want me to wear these, but I'm wearing them. I don't fucking care. Yeah, she's wonderful. Got a great photo with her that I can post after the actors finish striking, which I don't know when we're going to stop that. But
it can be a while.
If it makes you feel any better, I get the exact same note from Cameron and John before every interview that we do. They're like, look, okay, Melissa Navia has agreed to come on the show. Don't fucking be weird. And I also ignore that note. So
he listens 50% of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Melissa Navia, let's hear from another caller, and then we can talk about the other veteran characters in this episode. Here's Tessa.
Hey guys, this is Tessa. I don't know anything about anything. I thought that was a really good episode. I know that every time there is any sort of war plot line, I am the first person to be upset about that. I made a mini prediction call, and in it, I was basically like, I hate this episode. I hate that they keep focusing on the fact that the medbay team was part of the war. And that's not how I feel at all, actually. I am a little confused by the fact that they said that Christine was on the Enterprise on civilian exchange, and then we find out that she was a military medic. I think that was a little weird of a retcon to do in 2 seasons of a show. The way they portrayed Starfleet was a really interesting criticism of the United States Army, especially with the fact that Joseph's speech to that younger soldier was basically, we're fighting for freedom. My real complaint is that this was the perfect setup to get to see Christine and Erica be friends, and this would have been a perfect example to see that. We see them interact a little in the episode, but for the most part, we miss out on these conversations that would have really helped to deepen both characters, because we still don't have much about either. Bye, I love you guys.
All right, Tessa, thank you for calling. Yeah, we didn't get a lot of Ortegas in this episode, but man, did she bring it with every scene she was in. She got to do a Picard maneuver. She got to do like a rebuking Picard maneuver at that dinner scene. It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
what'd you guys think?
Her and Benga in the hallway was so good. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. The pacing back and forth as he was approaching her. Yeah.
Well, and it shows Benga doing it the right way, right? Before we see everybody else do it the wrong way. He's not saying like, yeah, just, have dinner. It'll be fine. He's like, look, we put on a mask, as you said, Thom, earlier. We put on a mask every day when we come to this job. So just rely on that for a couple of hours, and we'll take things as they come. And I will say, I did like that we had Christine immediately chase Erica out of the room to check on her, and ostensibly probably to deal with her own feelings about what was going on, right? But I I've seen some people online talking about how, we were told we were going to get more Ortegas this season. And the first thing I'll say is we've gotten more Ortegas this season. She has had significantly more to do in season 2 than she has in season 1. But I also agree with the viewpoint of like, give me an Erica episode, right? Like, I would love to see her carry an episode because it's so apparent that she is capable of doing it. But I would also say this season was entirely done filming when season 1 premiered. So they didn't get any fan feedback. They didn't know how rabid we would all be for Ortegas. And even still, we're getting these really, really deep, meaningful scenes and stories with her. So I'm grateful for that. But I agree that I'm still ready for more of it. Now, to their friendship, you're right. We didn't really see much of that in this episode. But one of my favorite scenes of those old scientists was those two showing up just to give Boimler crap. Like, to me, that was a true friendship scene, right? Like, let's just mess with him. Like, it doesn't matter if anything happens. We'll just go mess with this guy because that would be fun. And that's what friends do. And that's usually about how much thought they put into it. So, and some really good points there, Tessa. Like, I'm glad to hear that your initial impressions were expanded and altered in some ways. I think that's the only way to watch Star Trek, right? Is to allow it to live in you for a little bit and then see how you feel about it. Because it really has always been about human stories and, ways to move through life in a world full of people just trying to do the same thing. So I really like that call, Tessa. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, if I may, that it's a testament to the character work in this episode and show that even though in a war episode, which you don't generally like, those characters came through so strong that you found that to enjoy. I mean, Chapel is great in this episode, from like when she first beams into, where she's got the private's heart in her hands and she's pumping it, and they start that chant. Kalima, Kalima.
No, wrong movie.
What?
But also, I will say, I think it's possible that by civilian in the first season, they just meant she's not in Starfleet, right? Mm-hmm. And it's possible that she volunteered for her medical position in the war, despite not being Starfleet as well. It's possible that she's just a nurse practitioner and was like, hey, I would like to help. How can I help? And they told her, oh, put on some armor and go to a war zone, so it's definitely still possible, but it could also just be calling back to the fact that after the war, she chose not to stay in Starfleet. And maybe the war is why she chose not to stay in Starfleet.
I'd like to say that I don't know anything about anything is normally how I start most conversations with like new people. So that's what I took away from that call.
Yeah. It was a great way to start the call. Like I am the one who gets and organizes the calls and, cleans them up, edits them a little bit. And so, sometimes I'm just sitting there in a quiet room laughing out loud at what people send, because they'll talk to me too and be like, oh, sorry, you got to cut that out, John, and move on to something else. All right, guys. But Tessa, I really like the call. I'm really glad to hear you enjoyed the episode, because it is a contentious episode, and but I think it's an episode that sticks. I think it's an episode that's going to stick around in people's minds for a long time. And I wish we had gotten to see Chapel and Ortegas have a bonding moment in this episode, or at least a hangout moment, something. But obviously, we're doing episodes, we're doing shows, not movies here, so they can't just do every single thing they want. But maybe there's a deleted scene. We'll have to see.
I know for a fact that there are deleted scenes surrounding the fight at the end of this episode. So I'm interested to see if those end up, on the Blu-ray, or as our friend Platty suggested in the Discord, maybe in another courtroom episode next season, this time dealing with Mbenga, and they go, hey, actually, we do have security footage of this. Here it is.
Yeah. It happens to look like it was filmed for a television show, every other video footage in Star Trek.
Great framing.
Yeah.
I I wish I could say something about a show that I just did, but I can't.
I love it.
Can't.
Yep, and we're not going to get you in trouble trying to pick your brain either. We totally get it, and we totally support the strikers. So,
yeah. I know everybody's got their favorite episodes, and I definitely have my favorite episodes of the entire catalog. But there are two that stick out as a soldier and as a combat veteran and a Purple Heart recipient and all of the things that I did in my other life that that touch me in a way that no other episodes touch me. I mean, like, everyone loves the best of both worlds and like all of those. But this one, I feel, like I said, I saw part phrasing. I identified with a lot of Mbenga in this episode. The panic attacks, the stress induced moments from just seeing somebody. You know, when Ra walked into the medical bay and he immediately sat down. Like, I lived through a year of constant combat, and there are days that I still freak out when something's in the roadway on the 405 because maybe it's an IED. That's some shit that I had to live with. The panic attacks, being in the shower and not being able to breathe and clutching your chest and wondering if you're having a heart attack when nothing is happening. When, you know, relative to a life of combat. So I think as a soldier, this is one of those episodes that that hits me in a different way. But also, you know, like my boss at my day job, I work on the radio here in Los Angeles. One of the first things, because he's new, he just took over a few months ago, and one of the first things he said in his welcome email was like, "I'm a Star Trek guy," and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna get along." And in our first meeting, he asked me, you know, what was your favorite episode? And it would have probably been different 20 years ago, before the war, but as a combat vet, TNG season 3 episode 11, The Hunted. When the Enterprise has to, you know, retrieve a convict who's escaped from a prison colony, and it turns out, oh, that prison colony is just where this planet sends its combat veterans because they don't know how to deal with them or us. Like, that is, when I watched that episode, I go, oh, this is my life. This is what happened when I came home from Iraq. This is what happens when my friends come home from Iraq. The world doesn't know what to do with us, except they don't ship us off to a penal colony. It's, you know, but this one, I mean, between The Hunted and the Cloak of War, Under the Cloak of War, I'm like, oh yeah, this is, these get me. And I think a lot of combat vets who are also Star Trek fans, or people who aren't either, could watch this and really get an understanding of what we go through after war. You know?
Yeah, I mean, as John said, you know, all our experiences from TV and movies, but I mean, watching this, I certainly felt like this feels a little more real than some of the depictions I've seen, for sure.
Yeah, they definitely had some good consultants on this. I felt like, oh, they talk to people. They like legitimately talk to people about this. I don't know for sure, but I could call some of my friends and ask.
and with, like, it feels like they definitely were trying with DS9, but I do like a lot of DS9 and the later seasons, but I definitely have heard that's like, yeah, it's not exactly representative of what it's really like. So it was still the early mid 90s. It wasn't, we weren't having conversations back then we have now regularly.
Yeah, it was relative peacetime. I think Somalia had happened, but it was pre 9/11, so you know, it was post Vietnam, and most people have just kind of like forgotten. You know, as much as we say don't forget, people fucking forget all the time.
Yeah.
So Anywho, dick joke, insert here. And that's how I deal with my trauma. I say something real serious, and then I follow it up with a fart joke.
There you go. Well, we got 4 calls left, so let's hear from Grayson back on the stage.
Hey, everybody. I love the tone of Under the Cloak of War. It was tense. And it filled in a lot of blanks for me regarding Mbenga. He's a grumpy, keep-to-himself kind of dude. And now I know it's because he's dealing with some shit. There's a lot to talk about in this episode, which I admit I found a little confusing. It took a couple of watch-throughs for me to get the full story straight. But the one thing that did stand out to me, and maybe I'm just conspiratorially minded, but I do feel like it was no coincidence that Ra ended up on the Enterprise. This almost feels like maybe the beginnings of, dare I say it, the Maquis, Mbenga, Chapel, and La'an, even the transporter operator, all give these kind of knowing looks throughout the episode, like maybe they know something we don't. So many moments when Chapel and Mbenga make eye contact and almost nod, like in sickbay before the jambalaya with Dalton parsley, which don't get me started, but parsley is never the secret ingredient in a dish. When have you ever been like, this is delicious? Am I getting parsley? No, you never have. But anyway, Chapel even says in that scene to Mbenga, we can still ditch this. And in the context of the scene, she's probably talking about dinner, but in the context of the episode, is she talking about a secret plan to assassinate Ra? Is that the reason Mbenga saves the blade and has it at the ready? Because this was a plan to finish what he started all along? Anyway, what do you guys think? Was killing Ra the plan, or was it just a really unhappy for him accident that he ended up on the Enterprise?
All right, Grayson, thank you for your call. I really like that question, but more importantly, he's right. Parsley is never a secret ingredient. Parsley is what you put in dog food to make their breath not smell.
This is why it's Delton parsley, right?
I was just gonna say that.
Delton parsley.
Pink parsley
is
remember what it's deadly in the wrong amounts. It's delicious in the right amounts.
And I
was wondering though if that was a bit of a red herring. Like, is this how Mbenga's going to enact his revenge? Is with some Delton parsley and then frame the captain? No, never mind.
Or like what if Chris had just screwed up, which would be out of character, right? Because we know he's a culinary mastermind.
Right.
I gotta assume, Grayson and Cam and John, that parsley is just the word that they put on it because it looks like parsley, right? They were like, we'll call it Delton parsley because it looks like Delton parsley. They don't have a word for parsley. But it's a fair point. And to your question, I have to say, no, I don't think killing Ra was the plan. I think Mbenga is, I think we see him genuinely, honestly trying to get through this. He's trying to actually do the work that Ra has been claiming to do, right? So I feel like that moment, you're supposed to have 2 reads on it. Like, is this a failing of him, just going back to his old ways? I don't think it is. I think it is him admitting that, like, I can't do this work with you in front of me. Like, please leave. He begs Ra to leave the room because he knows that he can't do this work with him in front of him.
His first reaction to seeing him walk into sickbay, I'm like, no. He is going into panic attack shock at seeing this Klingon in his sickbay. This wasn't a pre-planned thing.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, does the chief medical officer not get a praise of the name of the ambassador who's coming on the ship? Like or was it really just like he knew he was coming, but the visual seeing him when he wasn't expecting to see him?
I think that's
seeing
what
him
it
like
was.
half an hour earlier.
Well, and it sounds like the plan wasn't to give Ra a tour. Ra asked for that.
Right,
so,
right.
Thom, I know we don't have a ton of time left with you, so I would love to get your read on this situation. Do you think this was Mbenga's plan all along?
No, absolutely not. Very much to the point of he asked and begged Ra to leave over and over again. He said, "Don't do this." As you know, as somebody who's had to deal with combat trauma personally, I've been in situations where someone starts. I guess I can say it now because it's my ex-wife, but we would have arguments, and I would say, "Don't do this. Stop, please. Let me walk away." And then something else takes over because we were trained to go through whatever wall got put in front of us, whether that wall was a literal wall or soldiers or enemy combatants or your fucking feelings. We will go through them. And that was another one of those scenes where I very much felt akin to Mbenga, where, you know, he knew the situation that he was in. He felt in him that shit's going to go sideways right now. So he said, "Get out, leave, please." And he kept pushing and he kept pushing. And I've had many relationships where arguments have started because, or not just started, but like it just absolutely exploded because one or both of us were like, "Don't do this, don't push." And the person just kept pushing. It never ended, luckily, with a Klingon dagger to the chest. But like Bon Jovi said, there was a shot to the heart sometimes. And, you know, but no, I don't think this was planned at all. I think it was very much a situation that happened because it escalated when Ra refused to leave.
Who grabbed the dagger first?
God.
Because they did it to us with that scene too.
They did, yeah. Yeah. Who grabbed the dagger first? You know what? To be very honest with you, again, as somebody who's been in a situation, I think Mbenga grabbed it first.
Okay.
He's a warrior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a place emotionally as someone who's dealing with post-combat trauma where, again, we are taught to go through whatever wall is there. And it's not you think about it, it is like we get taught at airborne school, muscle memory. When you jump out of an airplane, you don't want to fucking have to think about what to do next. We are trained so intensely on the automatic movements of jumping out of an airplane. It's the same thing with combat. You don't think about trigger squeeze or your breath or when to pull the trigger in between breaths. It's something you do instinctively. Good soldiers, good combat soldiers, and obviously Mbenga having the most hand-to-hand combat kills on record, he was a highly trained person, and that is not a thinking situation. That is instinctive. He was in a situation instinctively where his combat training kicked in, and I think he grabbed it first because, you know, there was a scuffle, and he was mentally back in a place where he's sticking daggers through Klingons' heads, like we saw in that flashback. But I don't see a reason for Ra to have grabbed it first. I don't, unless he like saw it in the case as he was walking by.
Right. I mean that. But put aside that Mbenga was closest to it, and that it was never, indicated that Ra even saw the dagger. I think Mbenga's headspace was he had been thinking about killing Ra, and I mean his headspace was trying not to. Was how do I avoid finding myself in that situation? But Ra, when he grabbed Mbenga, still seemed to be in the headspace. Hey man, let's work this out. Let's use this to my advantage. Let's peace, man. So I mean, I think
it's actually foreshadowed in the scene where Ra shows up to the medbay because, or maybe it's where they get invited to the dinner, because Mbenga sits down and he reaches for that medical implement. He's like, I don't want to give him the satisfaction. Then he puts his hand around this medical implement, and Christine looks down at him like, hey, that's not a weapon, and you don't need a weapon right now. But he's not thinking about that. It's automatic, and his instincts tell him, put something in your hand to defend yourself in case you need to.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. Well, Thom, thank you for your time today. Thank you for hanging out with
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having me on, guys.
What have you got to plug?
I talked to my SAG rep, and there are things that I want to talk about that I can't because we're on strike.
Mm-hmm.
I have some amazing photos that I want to put up on Instagram, but they're like, you can't. So with that said, I've got a bunch of stand-up dates coming up. I'm going to be in Florida doing some gigs around Veterans Day. It's my busiest time of year for obvious reasons. So I'll be in Florida in November, Veterans Day week, I think, like 3 or 4 days. I've got gigs in Los Angeles constantly happening. Oh, I have a new series. Oh, I can't talk about this because it's not under a SAG contract. I have a new series that I'm doing about special guitars in my collection, like the one you guys pointed out earlier. This is my Ibanez Paul Gilbert PGM 301 guitar that I had custom painted with. And I don't know if you saw this part, but the pickup selector switch. They had it painted so it is right into it's right into the lower part of the Enterprise there. It's an amazing guitar. I love this guitar. It sounds so good.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a series now called The Story Behind the Strings, which is an in-depth conversation about the guitars in my collection and that of my famous friends. I just had a buddy, Luke Null. He was on Saturday Night Live. He has a great story about like what he did with his first check from Saturday Night Live. Spoiler, it's by guitar. But that's an awesome series that I'm doing. I love it. It's one of my passion projects that I'm doing right now. Also, it's my justification for having 45 guitars, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, it's on my YouTube channel, so it's youtube.com/Thom Tran online. It's THOMTRAN online. If you guys want to check that out, I'll tell you what. So my band, the Bridge Crew, I was working on an album before I lost the drummer and bassist to Black Flag, but I'm rewriting a bunch of like rock tunes in the vein of Star Trek episodes. So when Top Gun 2 came out, I rewrote Danger Zone, and it's called Neutral Zone.
Yes.
And if you listen to the lyrics, it is based around TNG Season 3, Episode 10, The Defector.
Mm-hmm. Man.
And if you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, that's the episode. So I'm doing that with a bunch of tunes. I just rewrote ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man. It is obviously Starfleet Man.
Okay. Yep.
So we have the video for
this is so cool.
Neutral Zone up, and it's, oh my God, I spent so much money on these videos.
Well, we will send everyone to go watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I had to take them down off the band's page because of copyright stuff, but I think I'm gonna, you know what, tell you what, if everybody goes to my YouTube page, I will upload. When does this episode come out? When does this come out? Tuesday. Okay. Yeah. I will upload them onto my YouTube page, and you can watch them there. But yeah, it's like one of my favorite things that I've ever done. Like, and I don't know if you ever watched the Kenny Loggins video for Danger Zone.
I'm sure I
where
have.
He's basically
Forever ago, yeah.
He's basically in a hotel. Like, I recreate that, but wearing a TNG era like uniform with the aviator sunglasses. It's the
so
dumbest
cool.
thing,
No.
but I love the shit out of it. But oh yeah, and my podcast, Scary Funny, the Scary Funny Show. It's comedians talking about haunted places.
Mm-hmm.
There's an episode early in this show where we talk about going ghost hunting and finding a ghost, like legitimately finding a ghost.
Man.
Sweet.
And it's
talk about a man of many talents, and in support of the stuff you cannot talk about. We will go ahead and include that link to the Entertainment Community Fund in the show notes again this week, because as we say every week, SAG-AFTRA strong, WGA strong, we support the strikers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in both unions, and when they both struck, my dad called. He's like, "Hey, man, if comedians strike, you're fucked." I was like, "We're not gonna strike.
We're not organized enough for that, Dad."
We tried that shit one time in '79. Leno got hit by a car, and like that was the end of that. I just saw Jay like 2 days
Maybe
ago.
that's where his love of classic automobiles comes from.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I mean, this is public knowledge now, but if you ever read the book, I'm Dying Up Here, which is what the show, the Showtime show is based on. There's a passage about Jay, in air quotes, getting hit by this car. And I've asked Jay for confirmation, and he just like smiles at me and like walks away. I'm like, all right, Jay.
Yeah.
No, understood, sir. Yeah. Understood.
Good story,
but
truth, all that kind of
People
stuff.
need saints, okay? Like,
Yes. Not all saints wear capes, or not all heroes wear capes. But I've got a couple of. I'm going to be on a couple of TV shows, and this movie with Sonequa that I did coming out. Whenever it's coming out, I don't know. Yeah. Can't say because
you'll probably be talking about those on your social medias. Where can people follow you there?
Yeah. You can find me everywhere at _THOMTRAN. That's my name. That's how I spell it. I have an H in there for a funny reason that's too long to get into right now. I'm on all the places except Twitter, because that place is a fucking dumpster fire that I got off of. But yeah, I'm all the places there. If you Google me, I think I'm like the first 9 pages of Google or something like that. Because Thom Tran, weirdly, very, very common name. But if you spell it THOMTRAN, yeah, I'm like the first 9 pages of Google or something like that.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
So, Thom, Open Pike Night is an open mic night themed podcast. So, do you have a joke for us today?
I can tell you a funny story, because I told you my Star Trek joke earlier that I tell on stage. But so I work at a radio station here in Los Angeles, and one day George Takei came in to promote his book, and my staff refused to tell me that this was happening because they didn't want me to be quote unquote fucking weird about it. But I found out. So I walked into my boss's office where he was, and I told him that story about my dad learning English, and he laughed. And then I said, "Can I take a photo with you?" So there's a photo on my Instagram page of me with George Takei doing the Vulcan salute. And then I walk out of the office, and he looks at my producer. I forgot to mention, I'm also wearing his uniform from TOS.
Slight detail.
When this is happening. Yeah. And so I take the photo, and I walk out, and I hear him ask my producer, "Did he wear that because he knew I was going to be here?" And my producer goes, "No, he fucking wore it because it's Wednesday, and he does this shit to amuse himself." He had no idea you were coming in today.
That's almost better. That's probably better, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So, yeah, that photo's up on my Instagram page somewhere.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Thom, and sharing your experiences and your dick jokes. It was everything we had hoped for.
Oh, sorry. One more thing I forgot to plug. There is a comedy club here in Los Angeles called Flappers in Burbank. And every month they do a sci-fi stand-up show where it's comics who are all nerds doing like a bunch of sci-fi jokes. Sometimes not sci-fi jokes, but we're all nerds. We do it once a month. I'm always posting about it when I'm doing the show if I'm in town, but also the Burbank Comedy Festival is happening August 17th, and I'm headlining a show at the Burbank Comedy Festival called In the Key of Funny. It's musical comedy.
Ooh.
And for any of your listeners, if you are in the area and would like to go, I will put you on my guest list for free for the Burbank Comedy Festival for that show on August 17th. So,
wow. That's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just hit me up on the Instagrams, or if they want to get a hold of you and you get a hold of me, we'll figure out how to do that. But anybody who wants to go, I'm headlining that show. So
wow,
awesome.
Thanks.
Very
That
cool.
is so
Thank
cool.
you. All right. Well, Thom had to take off, but we're going to keep answering calls from our listeners, and we're going to keep talking about this episode because there's still plenty to talk about that we haven't gotten to. So, for our next caller on the Open Pike Night stage, here is Michelle.
All right.
Hey, Open Pike Night. So that was definitely a rough one to watch, but Star Trek does this. I thought immediately of TNG's The Wounded. Obviously, many episodes of Deep Space Nine that Star Trek has explored previously, but this was done very gritty and powerful, and the acting was phenomenal. I want to particularly shout out Melissa Navia, who didn't have as much to do, but really portrayed that blunt yet professional officer, that quiet rage behind her face. There was so many moments where you could see the turmoil she was in, and I just thought she knocked it out of the park. Babs and Jess Bush, of course, were phenomenal. Again, they really sold the trauma that their characters were going through, especially Babs with Mbenga, and the ending was a bit shocking, but not really. Like, you could see he was being pushed the whole episode. And again, this is like tough because you're looking at a Starfleet officer, you're also looking at a doctor, and these questions of ethics. So my Crusher connection is really connected to Beverly in Picard season 3 and how she was really questioning her ethics as a doctor versus just being a human being. And the effects of, as she said, a lot has happened in the last 20 years. So it was a very emotional episode, but I think it was executed very well. We'll see what next week brings. Until then, live long and prosper.
Speaking of executed very well, man, one shot and Ra was down, right, guys? That's pretty good for him, Bang.
He knows how to save lives, and he knows how to take them.
Yep.
The immediate Trek parallel that I noticed in this was it's a line directly from O'Brien when he says, "I don't hate you, Cardassian. I hate what I became because of you."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's almost exactly what Mbenga says, right? He's like, we go to war hoping that it won't change us, won't change who we are. And at the end, he gets pulled back into that person that he has been trying to get away from, this wound that he is trying to heal. And, Ra shows up as a blade stuck in his side, refusing to allow him to heal. And I really personally feel it was masterfully executed. Again, phrasing, sorry.
Well, real quick about that line of Mbenga's, I did want to ask you guys, because he says something about the reason he kept resisting this call from everyone to re-enlist in the special ops apparently was, I think he said something like, I didn't want to go home to my family a changed man. Well, too late. And so that kind of implies that he's still married at this time, and we don't know where his wife is or what happened to her, and did the war ruin his relationship with her when he went back? Is that what happened to her? She's still around somewhere.
I could definitely see that. And I got to assume that they're setting up some reason for him to not be the chief medical officer on the Enterprise when Bones McCoy shows up, right? We know that he doesn't get drummed out of Starfleet, but we know that when McCoy is there, Mbenga is not the CMO. So
we haven't even talked about the Makbara yet, the scene. I mean, the conversation in it, again, the guy's a politician. He's trying to recruit, make it look good for himself to have recruited a mortal enemy to his cause of peace. The conversation, I don't think is as meaningful as just the scene. I'm pretty impressed with how well they blended the actor and the stuntman in the fighting. That was a well shot fight scene, because Robert Wisdom's not that nimble anymore. You can see him walking around. Yeah, he was in the TV show Barry recently. It's he can't move like that. So I thought they did a good job of making it work as best they could for a tight close hit, HD close-ups, all the stuff they didn't have to worry about 30 years ago.
Well, and that scene gives you another insight into Ra, right? I'm an ambassador. I'm all about peace. Also, I love to keep up my hand-to-hand combat skills. Why do you need those if you're an ambassador all about peace, man?
The first time I saw the scene, I was like, well, why did Mbenga agree to this? Why would he do this to himself? He barely wanted to go to dinner, and now he's going to go do judo with this dude. And then you get the questioning he asks him later, and you're like, oh, that's why you're here. You want to know, if he's still carrying this lie about being the butcher, and seeing what you can get out of him from there. And that I really like that, and wonder how much that then connected to him pulling out the knife later on and being like, are you starting to wonder if you should go down this path at this point now because of what he said? Or it's all really well structured,
and it gives Mbenga arguably an advantage, right? Because now he knows his enemy. He knows how the guy is going to fight. It really does add a lot of layers. I mean, usually
It's kind of one of those things you would learn reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
right. And normally we would see a dojo fight like this, and then some character would be like, "Why did you fight him?" And he'd be like, "Because I wanted to know who he really was," right? But they don't tell us that here. Yeah. They actually showed it to us, and it mattered later on. Just masterful all the way through.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ending, I mean, yeah, I mean, where did you guys fall on the ending? Not what did you think happened, but how do you feel about Mbenga possibly being the one to take this guy's life? And more importantly, I think the thing that took the longest for me to struggle with was him and Chapel. I mean, they lie to Pike. They at least lie about the knife, maybe by omission, but they are misleading him about the knife, which makes me think, yeah, maybe Mbenga started the fight.
Oh, I 100% think Mbenga.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
But it's
and part of I kind of bump a little bit on the ambiguity of the ending. I'll talk more about that in a bit. But I think part of the reason is like, yeah, he obviously started the fight. Why are we being ambiguous about this?
Well, yeah. So for Chapel, she didn't have to lie by saying it was self-defense because Ra put his hand on Mbenga first. Sure. So she knows that she's hiding behind a technicality, right? But she is holding that technicality up as a shield, and she's like, it's a delta-shaped shield. What are you going to do about it, Pike?
Yeah, well, the whole like it's it's obviously the Butcher of Jagal's knife, right? And we all know who the Butcher of Jagal is, right? Like, wow, straight to Pike's face, Chapel?
Yeah, no, it is, but it is one of those things like, okay, that it shows us that they have each other's backs first and always.
They got this.
And, it is one of those things that, again, none of us having experienced this, like, yeah, that's probably, we have seen plenty of media and stories where it's like, yeah, why'd you do that thing? Oh, my buddy from the war asked me to do it. So, of course, I said yes. Like, it is an unquestioning thing. And obviously, she also doesn't want him to get in trouble. And they actually said the line, "I'm glad he's dead," in a Star Trek episode. Like that's a big deal for the Star Trek universe in general. And he's not the only one. Like on that ship, there's several people who are glad he's dead. Yeah.
I think that having La'an back Chapel up is one more layer there, right? It's very subtle, but she doesn't say anything like, she might be lying or, this, that, or the other thing. She says, what I've seen corroborates what they said. Yeah. And the rest of that sentence is, but that's not the whole story, obviously. But what we have to go on is that. And I agree that happened.
Yeah. Well, and even Pike doesn't fully buy it, and he goes down and he does it his Pike way. And I think it's probably just a surprise as many of us watching the scene at where it goes. Yeah, I mean, I admit I bumped on the ending at first. I was like, wow, that is a choice from Mbenga, especially the lying part, and bringing in Chapel into that too. And it took me a couple days to be like, but this is what Star Trek does. It makes us ask these moral questions. And just in the past, it's always done it with guest stars or alien races or much bigger ideas and symbols. And I mean, that's just not the way television's told these days. Like, it's told through character work. And I think it's more impactful when it's done that way. So it took me like 2 days, but I was like, you know what? I'm coming around. I like this ending. I don't like the ambiguity, but I'll get into that maybe later.
All right. Well, let's hear from our next caller on the Open Pike Night stage. We have Abby.
Hey, Open Pike. It's Abby Summer from the First Flight podcast. Sorry if I sound a little hoarse in this one. The episode got me all choked up. I have to say, since you called for what are you excited about in Strange New Worlds years ago, I've been saying Mbenga, and I was not wrong. This just shows what an incredible actor and character and man we have here with Joseph Mbenga, and I cannot wait to see more of him. If you have not yet watched The Ready Room, he does a great interview, as does Melissa Navia. Also got me choked up. But I have to say, this one, the last scene between Pike and Mbenga where they're discussing what did or didn't happen and the talk about morality and things that never leave you, that is a scene that can be used in a classroom. I see this episode being discussed for many, many years, and that's okay. And especially being the heavy episode in between two much lighter episodes, I hope it gets the time and attention that it deserves, because this is another standout of this season. So I'm going to go dry my eyes and hug my kids, and I hope all of you and yours are well, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Abby. Yeah, this is, like I said before, this is an episode that over time I think will stick a lot more. I think this could be up there with some of the most popular episodes of other Trek series, but probably not yet. I have a feeling that when episode 10 wraps up for season 2, this will probably be almost at the bottom of almost everybody's lists of episodes for the season, but I don't think it'll stay there.
I beg to differ. It's already become the next Tuvix episode. Like, especially on social media, it's just replete with people saying Mbenga did nothing wrong, or Mbenga has forever changed for me now. And I mean, that is the essence of Star Trek, right? It gives you a human story and asks you, how do you feel about this? And I think that for me, the last scene isn't meant to say, like, you know, this is morally correct or this is justice. It's saying this is the justice that Mbenga is capable of handing out. And so he did it. Like, in his mind, this is the only moral choice because this person has committed genocide. This person cannot be forgiven, right? So it's, like you said, Cameron, it's done through character work now. And yeah, excellent points, Abby, and way to call it from way out. Wow.
Yeah, I again, like when I saw the end, I was like, oh, people aren't going to like this. People are going to be like, this isn't Starfleet. And I've kind of been surprised by the reaction. I mean, our callers, most people liked it. Those who didn't aren't saying like the writers didn't understand the universe or didn't understand Starfleet. They just didn't really agree with that choice from Mbenga, but still believe that he made it. Yeah, I'm happy with the reaction this episode's getting. I think it's a near perfect episode. My complaints is, like, again, that I think it's with that in-fight scene, and I realize it's this. I mean, one, again, we kind of know what happened. Based on the evidence they do show us, we kind of know what happened. But then when they cut to that behind the screen and you only see the silhouettes, I think it's that edit that I bump on, because it's the filmmaker saying, we're going to make this ambiguous for you. You know, there's whole like essays written on the difference between when the camera moves into a character and a character moves towards the camera. And I think that's at play here, is that when the filmmakers are cutting away and saying, oh, we're going to be ambiguous, we know the answer. There is an answer to what happened, but we're not telling you. It feels different than, say, if we had just been on them fighting and then they moved behind the screen and there's a scuffle and you couldn't really tell what happened that way. It would have felt more organic. And I think that would have made my processing of the end happen quicker.
Yeah. That or they start to close in on each other and then the camera moves to Chapel.
Yes,
as she's
like
walking in. But yeah, the hard cut to behind the screen, because every time I've watched it, I'm like, oh, Chapel's seeing it through the haze of the screen. Then that's the edit makes it look like Chapel is on the other side of the screen, but it's like, oh no, she's not. She's the only witness.
That's a confusing edit as well.
It is a very confusing edit. I'm 100% on board with you.
But to push back, I will say I really feel...
Never, Jesse. You would never push back.
I feel the fogged
Just
glass.
like Mbenga did to Ra. Is that how you're pushing back on me now?
I mean, if I have to.
Okay.
So
sorry, go ahead.
I think that the fogged glass is one more visual metaphor for the fog of war, right? And please, you guys, let's take into consideration that this is the room where Mbenga kept Rukia in the transporter buffer. Ra is in his home on this ship. It's not just that he's on the ship. He is in Mbenga's personal space. Like,
that's a good point.
There is a lot to be said for that. And this is a room of delayed loss and trauma and trying to heal for Mbenga in so many ways. I really feel that fogged glass is just meant to be, hey, look, not even Mbenga is sure what's happening right now. He's just acting.
Yeah. And Ra keeps going to him.
Yeah.
He, like, it's like I feel like they're trying to show that somehow Ra is seeking justice from somebody who he knows has reason to be able to give him justice, either forgive him or kill him. I really love the Scorch on Twitter said, well, now is Ra in Stovacor because he died in combat? Like, did Mbenga actually give him an honorable death that he had run away from and was potentially never going to get again in that little battle?
For an old ass whole plate, that Scorch is insightful.
Seriously.
Right?
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I had one other complaint, and that is Medbay 2.
Biobed 2?
I have a feeling Jesse's going to push back on me at this Biobed 2. And it's because I think if it had played a part in the plot at all, I would have been fine with it. I do love a metaphor like that. But the fact that they mention it once at the beginning and then give you like the heavy metaphor at the end, I was like,
not just the heavy metaphor, the heavy metaphor with the horror movie music behind it. I'm like, Biobed 2 better murder somebody in episode 10 because that is what they just set up. I have it written in my notes. Final Biobed shot with horror music. Foreshadow? Because if it's not, it's a weird way to close the episode.
Because
it's really on the nose.
Because obviously, as you've said, Cameron, Biobed 2 is Mbenga, right? Like there are some things that are broken in a way that can't be fixed, and we just do our best until we can't. So
no one missed that.
It's right. So, but I think that the point of that is telling us this is not the end of this story for Mbenga. This is going to come back to this character in some way.
What's the word? It's an ending. It's not a happy ending. Like, when that blinks and goes on the fritz, it's telling you something is going to happen. And again, it could have been written word for word. If the bed had been a plot point at some point, it would have been perfect for me. It's just the way you could take that out of the episode and it would change nothing.
I will say, and I'm going to do this. I rarely do this, but that delivery of that kind of line versus Kaylee's delivery and Out of Gas on Firefly of sometimes the things broke can't be fixed. Like that was done much better years and years and years ago, 21 years ago. This one I was like, ooh, this is an awkward ass way to end a really good episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
I will just say that I disagree and then we can leave it be.
There we go.
Fair.
All right. Let's hear from our final caller of the evening. Theo returns to the Open Pike Night stage.
Hey, Open Pike, it's Theo. The first thing I have to say is that when it comes to Star Trek, typically war stories aren't my favorite, which is kind of funny because DS9 is my favorite of the shows. Anyways, I wasn't expecting to love this episode as much as I did. In true Star Trek fashion, it not only talked about the horrors of war, but also the philosophy of it and the effects that it can have on people and the struggle of dealing with reformed enemies. Because, of course, Starfleet strives for peace and understanding, but there's only so much you can forgive when you've gone through so much trauma. The final scene with Mbenga and Pike was perfection, in my humble opinion. It really tied the episode together. I really wish we got that scene of Chapel comforting Ortega's to type Erica's storyline, but that's such a tiny nitpick, and honestly, this is Bab's episode. He was incredible. Ever since the premiere, I was waiting for him to have this moment, and he did not disappoint. And Mbenga is such a strong, silent force in the show. He carries every scene that he's in, and I really love that we got more of his backstory with Christine. They're like such an underrated friendship in my opinion. Ever since the premiere, I've loved them. Anyways, this cast is so incredibly talented. They deserve all the Emmys. That's my final thought. Let the Emmy campaign begin. Let's get that started, guys.
All right, Theo, thank you very much for your call. And this show.
Thank you for thinking we can start an Emmy campaign.
Right?
I don't know. Maybe we can
try and figure it out.
We should Google how to start an Emmy campaign because, this show absolutely deserves as many as it can get. Well, that's our final caller. You guys, what do you want to do? Go around the room and collect our thoughts for the episode? Like anything we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I just want to say Jenna Mitchell. Got to shout her out whenever we see her.
Yeah. We got our Klingon coffee. We got our one word teas, Klingon coffees. So yeah,
we also got a little bit of Klingon music, and I gotta say, like, when and the way they brought it in near the end was so good.
My biggest thing for this episode really ties in to what Theo said. Like, give Babs, Olus, and Mokun an Emmy. Like, I can't believe that we have a cast of this caliber in Star Trek every week, and that we will get them back when the strike is over. But, like, this needs to be recognized. Like, this is very, very high-level acting, and it is incredibly high-level execution. As Thom was saying, like, let's be happy with what we're getting, knowing all the constraints that are here. And, I mean, everything, the acting, the set, the lighting, the costumes, like, this is all stuff that we've talked about. But at some point, I think Theo is right. We need to see what we can do to get some awards thrown this show's way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just wait till next week, folks.
Oh my gosh.
We all know what's coming.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up, Cam, with the callback to Pelia's conversation with Boimler. And it's like, yeah, they had the same conversation in this. I liked when Ortega said, put on a Starfleet face. I'm like, oh, she's foreshadowing for next week, too, with the musical episode. I really... I've got my shit to talk about Uhura not warning Ortegas when they walked on the bridge, but having Uhura be sort of the wide-eyed, young, innocent believer in peace at the dinner table was a really good touch. I think it was a very small thing and overshadowed by all the veterans, but like just the way she, not like hanging on every word of Roz, but definitely like just openly interested and not carrying any of the weight that they're carrying was really well presented. We've talked about Pike cooking before. Jesse, you said we never get to see him eat. We didn't see any of the food he made this episode or get to see him eat. We just get to see the aftermath.
We saw the jambalaya, but we saw it sitting there uneaten.
Yes, yeah. That's right. Yeah, but
he went through all that trouble to poison it, and no one had a bite.
Eat your goddamn food, Pike. And yeah, I'm sorry, but Protocol 12 is a shitty name. It is called Space Meth.
Yeah,
it is officially Open Pike Night. It is Space Meth
or Battle Meth,
or as the guys over on Greatest Trek call it, green juice.
Green juice. Yeah,
it's
Protocol 12.
Yeah,
please.
Protocol is not a name that you would apply to a substance. Like,
no,
but maybe the use of that substance could be called Protocol 12, but the substance itself would probably be called Substance 12.
I think the research into it was Protocol 12, and then it was nixed before they could ever name the substance. So
that might work
to the appropriately named Battle Meth. Yeah,
Battle Meth. Yeah. All right.
Well, Jesse, we are 80% of the way through season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and I have to ask you this question. I know you're going to beg me to leave when I ask it, but here it is. Which episode is better? Season 2, episode 8, or season 1, episode 8?
Way to stick a doc tog directly into my primary heart. It's the reason this one is difficult, obviously, is the tone, right? Because there is heavy tone in Elysian Kingdom. And when you get to the end, you're like, I was hoping to just be happy this whole time. And here you are, ripping my heart out. The answer is I would say that they are equal because of the work that Babs, Olus, and Mokun has done. Recency bias and, this being an episode about this episode pushes me to say it's this one, because the Elysian Kingdom is really, really good. Like, it's one of my favorites, but I don't know that we learned anything about our characters outside of Mbenga in that episode. I don't know that we learned much about Starfleet in that episode and how they operate and how they think. So as a Trekkie who is deeply in love with Trek, I feel like I'm going to have to pick this episode.
Huh? Cameron, how about you?
Fuck you, John. Fuck you both.
I've been looking forward to this all
has been
week.
A really hard one. It's a really hard one. more about, I know in my gut what I'm going to choose, so how do I justify it? Because there's a very good argument for this being the technically superior episode. And certainly, as you say, Jesse, the more important to Star Trek episode. I feel both are near perfect episodes that kind of, personally, I think may have a small stumble near the end. I do think Elysian Kingdom, that stumble didn't affect my emotional reaction to the end as much, whereas with this one, I do feel like it took me another day or two to process it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to watch Elysian Kingdom more than I'm going to watch this one. I'm going to come back to it. It's going to be my nostalgic, feel-good go-to episode. So I got to stick with the Elysian Kingdom.
Yeah. I thought about this a lot and really appreciated how well this episode conveyed the confusion and the way situations can change so much on the battlefield. So in that theme, I'm changing the rules now that you guys are done, and I'm saying it's a tie, that these are a tie. Therefore, Open Pike Night has an ambiguous decision on which episode is better, which fits with the theme of the Cloak of War, Under the Cloak of War. You're welcome.
And we got to produce more episodes without John.
But yeah, I mean, I want to say one more time, like the world building on that planet. We get 20 minutes on that planet learning about this mass unit, and it's all done so effectively and so streamlined and seamlessly. So good. So good. I mean, definitely better than just the camp of throwing up some curtains around the Enterprise. So technically, this episode deserves all the Emmys, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they forgot to turn the sun on at any point on the planet. But other than that,
it was cloaked.
Title locked.
It was cloaked in war. John.
Yeah. True. True. All right. Well, Jesse, we had some great callers and an amazing guest tonight. How can our listeners call into Open Pike Night and get their voices heard?
The easiest way to get your voice on our stage is to go to openpike.com/join us. You can record directly on that page. But if you prefer a little higher quality on your voice clip, you can record an MP3 and send that to openpike@gmail.com. And you can follow us on social media at openpike, basically anywhere, and you will see our requests for calls that way as well.
And when should they call in? Because we're not doing a normal episode next week.
I don't know the answer to that.
That was set up. So we're gonna be in Las Vegas when episode 9 drops. Episode 9 is obviously a big deal. It's the musical episode. If you want to call in for that, you can absolutely send a voice message. I'm going to say right now, I don't know if we'll be able to integrate them into our recording because we will be on the floor of Star Trek Las Vegas doing some live podcast recording too.
I'm going to say right now, everyone, call in. We want to hear your thoughts and we will air them some way. We'll either make a big montage and play that at some point. Perhaps it'll be a bonus episode after the season where we revisit episode 9 with all your thoughts. But we definitely want them. Get them in. Don't expect to hear them in that week's episode, but we will find a way.
Because I agree. Thank you, Cam, because it's like, how could we not? How could we not collect the voices of our listeners and somehow share what?
And if you've seen your thoughts,
I was going to say
the episode.
If you sing, I mean,
even if you don't,
but if you do,
but if you do, no excuses.
If you're going to be at Star Trek Las Vegas, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Just shoot us an email. Just let us know you're going to be there. We will be hanging around. We have shirts that have the big, Open Pike Night in big bold letters on them. It's pretty hard to miss us, but as far as I understand, it's a giant convention. So hopefully we get a chance to see every fan we have there and make a ton of new ones.
And a huge, huge shout out to all of our supporters, especially our patrons. You guys have literally made it easier for us to get to Star Trek Las Vegas, and we deeply appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much to our 25-minute set supporters, Pam, Morhana, Mark, and Steve. I'd like to say a special thank you to the Strange New Pod Discord. I went on there to find out about some convention info and looking for some tickets, and they pointed me right in the right direction. Great engagement there. Thank you very much to that group over at the Strange New Pod Discord. Cam, when you are not on the Open Pike Night stage, where can folks find you?
I am making the way through my own fog of war, TNG, and now DS9, where I'm finally clearing it out and filling out the whole map of that show. I feel I'm getting my metaphors mixed up somehow. I played a lot of StarCraft. Anyway, I'm watching it for the first time, and now DS9 as well. John is too. Our other hosts, Rob and Bobby, watching it for their 11th, second, I think probably second time for both of them. Anyway, come join us at GreenShirt87 on Twitter or wherever you're listening to this pod. Greenshirt, a newbie's trek through the next generation.
And Jesse, where can folks find you?
If for whatever reason you need more of me in your ears, just stay in this podcasting app and look up Sudden But Inevitable. It's the show where I force friends to enjoy single-season television shows that were canceled before their time that they've never seen before. For example, Firefly, Cowboy Bebop. You get the gist. So definitely check out Sudden But Inevitable and check out my upcoming appearance on the Crusher Convo, in which we discuss The Inner Light.
It's been a long night, and the Open Pike Night crew has an incoming transport. Incoming transport.
Fuck you, John. It's hitting again.
So we've got to go. Don't forget to clean up after yourselves. Don't forget to tip your servers. You can go anywhere you want, but you can't stay here.
Fucking, I do this for a living. All right. Hey, this is Thom Tran, and you're listening to the Open Pike Night. These guys are like the diplomatic... Jesus Christ. I should have read that first.